Hello, bonjour. As you see, I've just come down to the garden to bring in the washing. I left it out overnight, and we think it rained a little bit last night. And you know, it's like if you leave it overnight, you get a bit of a dew on it, and it's a bit damp. But it feels okay. That sort of feeling, sort of, it's iron dry. But the main reason today was for picking up the camera is because someone reminded me recently that we never did explain about why we were giving up the sheet. So I thought I'd do that now if I can. I've got some notes on my phone, and so I think we're going to have a walk down to the potager, because I know I've got chairs there that I can sit on, although they are a bit rough, but I can't really get other chairs out at the moment because if it rains I'll have to put them away again. But everything's looking okay at the moment because we've had bits of rain, bits of sun. It's one of the best years in some ways. This is the back end of the garden where I'm going through. And whether there's anything to pick down here today, I don't know. Previous videos will have shown you that I've been picking some. But yes, everything's still looking good. Again, the previous video will have shown this and told you all about that. Still more blackberries coming. How are we doing on the tomatoes today? Yes, they're very slow. We haven't got a lot of fruit on them at the moment. Oh, look at this. We do have some aubergines. Wow. First time growing aubergines. That's fantastic. I wonder what it's like to have your own fresh ones. There's not a lot more to report on the garden. I mean, the butternuts have gone mad actually. I can see I've got fruit. You see there we've got an onion coming, and one of those dreaded ferns trying to come up beside it. There's lots of yellow flowers, but we definitely do have, there's one there, one there, one coming there, two more there. So we appear to have butternuts again this year. You may or may not remember that we lost all of the last year's. We put them in the garage over the winter because we thought they're just going to get eaten or they're going to go rotten in the garden. And when we was away in January, we don't quite know what happened, whether it just got too cold in the garage or what, but we lost them all. They all just rotted away. So I'm a bit frustrated now that I didn't just chop them up and freeze them, because at least they would have got used. So this year that is what I will do. I'll leave them in the garden as long as I can, but then I will chop them up and freeze them. Okay, right, let's find my notes and I can explain. There's been several things over the years that has made me feel like I wanted to give up. I mean, generally that was because I found I hadn't quite got the same energy that I used to have. Just starting to get a little bit windy outside, so I decided to come and sit with the tomatoes and talk to you. Yeah, there's been several times over the recent years where I've thought, I've really had enough. But then I started to miss people coming and going from the gite, and I loved meeting them and getting to know them, and we get people from all over the world. So we kept going. After COVID, well, even during the COVID times, because of the sanitary regulations and everything, we had to we decided, I can't remember if we had to, whether we decided to leave 48 hours at either end of the stay. So if someone was coming, they'd have to give us at least 48 hours notice, and then when they'd left, obviously the next person would have to leave 48 hours notice as well. So it gave us time to prepare and everything. And because of sanitary conditions, even though we always did the same thing, you had to be obviously using extra cleaning products and things like that, supposedly. I don't know how they were supposed to monitor all of that, because they weren't going to come around to everybody's gite and inspect it, were they? But anyway, it was becoming a bit too much pressure, and because it wasn't our main income, we decided that we wouldn't worry about it. And maybe at the time, even though it stayed on Airbnb, not many people were booking anyway, because they just, I suppose, in one way you couldn't travel, and some people that were scared of contracting COVID. So that during that time it was a bit difficult. But I mean, obviously prior to this, I had been ill in 2018, and my energy levels weren't quite as they used to be. And having had stopped for a long time during treatment and things like that, my enthusiasm had waned a little bit. But I did it, and sometimes Sharon would come and help me as well. Yeah, so we got there when we did get bookings. And Duncan goes through phases of work where he's worried about the money, and obviously, which you do with any job, especially if you're self-employed. So he didn't really want us to give up, and said, please, let's keep going. Then things started to settle down a little bit, and he himself starting to feel a little bit, he gets tired more than he used to with work. So I suppose in a way, until it happens to you, you don't think it'll ever happen to you, and you just get on with things, don't you? The straw that broke the camel's back in the end was that the government actually lowered the threshold for how much you could earn before you had to pay the cotizations or the tax. I can't remember the wording anyway. If I get the right word, I'll put it on the screen. So it was lowered from, we were paying from 50% of our earnings down to 30% of our earnings, which obviously is a lot. They're doing it because they want to prevent people from renting, and to even stop people from renting on Airbnb and places like that, because they feel that it's forcing up the rent on normal rent properties, if you see what I mean. So anybody around here that rents a house or an apartment or something, it's forcing them to raise their rent. I personally don't quite understand why, because that sort of rent will always be lower than a holiday rental. That's just because it is. So, I mean, we've never charged a high rent anyway. We've always thought of ourselves as, I suppose, on the lines of budget. Even though, I mean, I always think of budget as in you'll go to somewhere and it's very basic. There'll be a bed, and maybe a stove, things like that. But our property had everything in it. We still equipped it with everything. Just that because it was small, and because the garden was detached, we felt that we couldn't push it up too high, because then to us, you're more likely to get more complaints. So we kept it at a level that we were happy with, and people used to come and say that they were really shocked because for a budget how much was provided. So it's we ummed and ahed a lot of times. We did put it up, I think, at €10 a night at one point, but it's yeah, it wasn't a lot really. But at the same time, people are going away happy, aren't they? Because they've not paid as much as they would expect to pay, but still getting the service. So anyway, that's why we stayed at that. But the reason I'm saying all this is because was already on a low price, to then start having to pay on 30% of our earnings, we ended up thinking, is this really worth it? Especially when you get the odd people that would come in, and I think sometimes when it's budget, and I think about it now, that people think that you don't care about your property and they may just treat it badly. I don't know, maybe that it was just human nature, I don't know, but it's them sort of things that make you think they come in and they disrespect the property. Or, I mean, it didn't happen a lot, don't get me wrong, but at times like that really upset you, and you think this is another reason why you think maybe you should put the price higher and they might respect it more. I don't know, what do you think? But anyway, we kept the prices as it was, and say in the end we were having to close it for illnesses at some point, and then we was having to close it obviously during COVID time, or if we were going on holiday. And we do like to take breaks a couple of times a year at least, or Duncan had to do some maintenance. I mean, and this is another thing, the maintenance. Duncan is very reluctant to actually bring someone in to do any work that needs doing, because obviously he knows they charge a lot, and again, we weren't charging a lot for the property, and in the end you could end up paying an artisan more money for doing the repairs or the maintenance on it than you're actually earning. So so in the end we'd have to close the property, or the gite, sorry, every time anything needed doing, because obviously you can't take that risk with someone coming in and maybe hurting themselves, or it's just not up to scratch. So, and because of work, he goes to work, and obviously sometimes he didn't get time to be at home to actually do the maintenance, so we just have to wait, and then we could open the calendar up again on Airbnb, and just carry on after that. But obviously with any house, after a time, wear and tear takes its toll, and things do need replacing and everything, although it's the same, we weren't too bad. And then recently we decided the only thing we hadn't properly changed was the shower room, and so Duncan wanted to totally refit that, and we knew that was going to take a long time, so it's been closed for a while as and when he can do that. So, and then this came up about the tax threshold lowering, and in the end we just more or less just looked at each other and said, oh, let's just not bother, it's just not worth the hassle. We're fortunate that he's got a job, he does earn money here, so doing the gite was a bonus, if you like, it just a bit of extra money coming in. But we obviously still want to maintain the place, but it will take longer because we still want friends and family to be able to stay in it. So one thing with COVID, actually, it sort of in a way took my confidence away, because we weren't actually, as and when people were allowed to get out and go into the world and have holidays, we weren't allowed to meet and greet them. So we put in a key safe at the front of the house, so we didn't have any close contact with our guests. And because that went on for so long, we kept that going. Once we were allowed to, we just kept the key safe going, and although we would obviously meet them from time to time, my confidence had gone regarding showing them around and telling them everything. So that was a real shame. I did try to force myself, but yeah, not quite the same. We quite often hear people that are buying properties specifically to come here and to rent out or to start a gite business. We do wonder sometimes, have they actually researched enough? Because obviously once you've been here and you've been doing it for 12 years, you know the pitfalls, you know the problems. If they're coming and they're wanting to do it full time and that is their only income, I do think it's a big mistake unless you're coming here with a lot of cash behind you. You cannot guarantee all year round bookings, so you need to have some other money to fall back on. And some people may want several, may start several gites up. I mean, we do hear of people here getting bookings all year round, and we know that the maintenance levels are pretty high, especially if you've got something. It's like you have a pool. There's so much maintenance with that, and the cost of putting a pool in. I mean, we know of someone recently to put a proper fitted in-ground pool in. It cost them €40,000. Some people just have the above ground ones, but you've still got to maintain them. You've still got to have the working pump. You've got to keep the water clean, the chlorine, all that stuff. If you get somewhere with a lot of bedrooms, see the thing is, I understand, because it all sounds very appealing. You think, the more bedrooms I've got, the more people I've got to come in, the more money we can make. But it's all the work that's involved. So unless you're in your 30s, maybe even younger, or unless you're of my age and you're really fit, it's tough. And obviously you've got to really enjoy it as well. And as I say, I did for a while. And it was always quite satisfying, actually. Once you got the whole gite made up, it's clean, beds are made and everything, you look round and you think, yeah, it looks good. But I used to, people watching regularly will know that I used to actually look after other people's gites, which I think is another reason why in the end it became too much, because I had, say, 5 or 6 people that I used to, as and when they had a booking or as and when they were coming over, I would go in and prepare their house for them. The toughest thing when it's a really hot day, and a lot of these properties, their bedrooms are in the loft or attic, as some might call it, or the grenier, it's what it's called here. But you can imagine it was so hot, and they very often didn't have AC or anything like that, so I would melt trying to do that. But these are the sort of things that if you've got your own gite that you're having to do as well. And you can imagine having several bedrooms and having to do that if all your bedrooms were in the loft, as they often are, because we're talking about stone cottages that used to be on one floor, and then the loft was always an addition later on. So yeah, these are all things you have to bear in mind if you're thinking about letting a gite over here. But it is more difficult now anyway, because you can't work here unless you've got a work visa. If you're retired here, and you've obviously got a regular pension coming in, then that's a different thing. And then obviously it's just, maybe you see it as a hobby, something to do while you're just living here, and I can understand that as well. So yeah, lots of things like that to bear in mind. And I think now as well, if you're I've got this written down, let me just check. If you are unclassified, as in you aren't registered with like someone like Gites de France, you can only have a turnover of around 15,000. So although that wouldn't limit everybody, because 15,000 is still a fair amount, but it depends on how much your rent is going to be. So if you're unclassified. If you're classified, as I said, with Gites de France, something like that, you can earn around 34. So that's up to you, but you're still going to have to pay these cotizations, obviously. Yeah, we just, in the end, we decided that we didn't want the added pressures. Now being that a little bit older, and because it's not our main income, that basically life's too short. Again, relating back to when I was ill, it does make you reassess your life, what you want out of life. And even Duncan's has slowed down a little bit now, and he doesn't take on every job that's coming because it is just too much. So we just took it off of Airbnb. We informed the local tourist office because we was on their list as well. It's sometimes I miss it because I'll like, because Duncan's, but we obviously don't go in there all the time in the Jeep because there's no reason to go in there really unless we've got something stored in the loft next door. But at the moment, because Duncan's working as and when on the shower room, I go in there and I'll wander around, look around and think how sad it is that it's all set up nicely and that people aren't going to be using it anymore. But then I have to remind myself, no more maintenance, no more bed making in there, no more struggling over when it's hot. Yeah, but it's pros and cons. As I said, I'm going to miss meeting people, but I hope now that it's sitting there all this time and that friends and family will stay, but even that doesn't seem to happen. I think I've said before, you have friends and family say they're going to come and visit all the time, and the only person I would say that's visited us that said they would was Sharon, and she ended up living here. Hey ho. But it is difficult. It's difficult because the cost of the travel has gone up to get here. It's even pricey for us to go back. So, but being that we've got no children, we do, and we still do it on a budget, but we've got more chances of going to see them. But we really want to share and show where we live with people. So it's a bit upsetting, and obviously I do miss family as well. But we just enjoy what we've got and feel very lucky that we've been able to do what we've done, because it meant selling up what we did sell up in the UK enabled us to buy this. And when we bought this in 2004, the prices were really low. They're still low, but they were really low then. And although it's a worrying time when you suddenly move abroad, as I've told you before, we came here on holiday and I would never want to go home because I just felt so comfortable here. And driving back to the port every time, I was crying because I was just wanted to be here. And I had to wait 8 years before that happened. And I say I had to wait because Duncan didn't really have it in his mind that we would live here. That was a lot more of my coercing, if you like. He just thought it would be a holiday home, and the house was a hobby really. We'd come out, do some work on it, and because he's really into architecture, design and stuff like that, so he really enjoyed that side of it. And the sourcing, the stuff that we needed for it was really fun, because we go to all the brocants and all the vide greniers, things like that, and that was really fun. And that's one thing actually is quite sad now, is we're not looking for anything for either house, the G or our house, because there's nothing left that we really need for it at this stage. So now, because he's putting all his design and everything into the garden, and so we're looking for things for the garden all the time, ornaments for the garden and things he can recycle for the garden. So as you've seen in our videos, you'll see how he's gradually adding to, and we've got more plans. I think I've shown his little sketch of what he wants to do in what was our gite garden, because we're now not letting it. We've got that part of the garden that's now for us as well, so he's redesigning that, and it's all exciting. It's going to be quite hard work, and we're going to try and do it with as much recycled materials as we can. But yeah, so I would just say keep watching, especially if you're into gardening, watch the garden videos and you'll see what we're doing, how we're doing it. We're not experts, but we're proud of what we've got, and obviously we're getting a little bit more expertise with each thing we do, and that's something that we enjoy. So I'm going to leave it there. I think I've more or less told you everything. To say primarily we've given up letting the gite due to the tax thresholds, due to the lack of energy between us now, and now that there is no money coming in, the maintenance of the gite becomes a bit more difficult. So it takes a lot longer to get things done because it has to do it as and when we find the materials and Duncan finds the time. So it's now being maintained for friends and family. So I hope that helps. If you've got any more questions or anything about all of this, please put them in the comments. As I say, we're not experts, but I can only share with you our findings, our experiences, and hope they help you. See you in the next video. Au revoir.